Hi, I'm Annie Warmke, and I'm standing in the kitchen of Ohio's first Earthship, actually the first Earthship east of the Mississippi. And I'm going to talk about what to do with kitchen waste today. And sometimes we call that composting, but there are other options as well. And just talk a little bit about how, if you really wanted to be a soil farmer, even in an urban area, you could create soil if you really consider that everything that's in your kitchen, including paper, potentially can make soil. So you don't have to go in the spring and buy soil at one of those shops that sells it. We are always generating lots of kitchen waste, and at Blue Rock Station we don't really seem to have that much because we have some options. One of our options is, as we're preparing food, we're thinking about, all right, where do we need this to go when we don't want that? And for example, this is a dish that was from lunch today, and in the dish are some eggshells, which are pure calcium. So what we could do with those is we could dry them out, and we could grind them up, and we could feed them to the chickens for calcium to help their eggs to be more, the shells to be harder. We could also scatter it around the base of a tomato plant, because tomatoes require a lot of calcium, but you've got to get that into a powder form in order for it to work effectively. Or if you have a problem with slugs, you could grind up those eggshells really, really finely, and they're like little nunchucks, and you put that under the canopy of the tomato plant, and when slugs crawl over it, it cuts them, and ouch, 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 they're going to die. But in this case, we're going to feed some of those eggshells to the pigs that we have, Helen and Lily, because they need lots of calcium in their diet, and I want to provide that for them naturally. We also have some greens, some stems from the cilantro from the garden, and some tops from the strawberries, and all of that's going to go in the pig food tonight. So we also have chickens, so we might decide we're going to feed some of it to the chickens, like the eggshells. But anyway, so anything like that becomes potential food for some of the livestock. But then it's obvious, I guess, that if something is a plant, like a piece of mint like that, that could rot, and that could become soil. But then there are other things. So for example, this is the morning coffee filter. So before it was there, it looked like this, more or less. And the idea is that we don't use or want to use coffee filters that are white because they've been bleached. So having a brown one that is not bleached is better, and it's also better for the compost. So when we're done with it, we put the grounds in there, we put the piece of paper in there, and in a few days it will be soil. The other things that we add are any type of paper towel. We try not to use too much of that. We have lots of rags and dish towels that we use, but if we use a paper towel, it rots very quickly, so into the compost bin it goes. Also, we don't use plastic as far as saran wrap or anything like that, because first of all, it's using oil, and we need oil for cars and machines and so forth, and it's in a limited resource, so we're going to use wax paper. And I love wax paper. It reminds me of my grandmother when I use it, and partly because I love the way it crinkles when you wrap something in it, and it just feels like it's special because it's in that wax paper and not in saran wrap. And this is a great product. It's inexpensive, and it will decompose in just a few days in the compost pile. And then this is some paper, a very thin, nice paper from some tortillas that we had for lunch. And again, it will decompose really rapidly. And lastly, we have a Q-tip, which is not plastic, and so that will decompose, but it'll take a little bit longer because it's thick. So I invite you to join me to be a composting queen or king and just start making soil. It's going to cost you less money because you're not going to be putting all that out on the curb. And lots of us don't live in places where we can put our things on the curb, so just get started. All you need is a plastic container and put the stuff in there, and off you go.